Welcome. I'm JJ Flizanes.
And I am Doug Sandler, and I am just being a dude. That's it.
Tonight's show, or whenever you're listening to this, it's evening for us, but tonight's show is inspired at dinner when Doug said, I'm just being a dude.
I was just being a dude. I forget if I didn't burp because I don't know how to burp. My burper's been broken since 1964, so I don't really know how to burp at all. But I was probably talking about sex at dinner. Was that accurate?
Yes, because I guess this is going to get X-rated, but whatever. So the choices were: do you want to watch television? Do you want to sit on my face?
That's right. Well, there was two choices. It was either watch television or sit on my face. That's
and
it.
I said, do I have a third choice?
And
he
like,
said, does it include sitting on my face? And I said, no. Do we have a middle choice?
No, and then I would said, "Oh, listen, I'm just being a dude. I'm just being a dude." Was the choice like something that was sex related, or was the choice? And then what did you say? You said, "Well, you want to play cards?" I'm
right.
like, "No, I don't want to
right,
fucking
you wanna
play cards."
cards. Do you want to? I don't even think recording a show was on the list. But then when you said I'm just being a dude, I thought that's a good title of an episode. And you said, "Bring out the recorder. We're gonna record an episode."
And then it got me thinking about how many times do the women in the relationship, and then it brought up the point, men are blowtorches and women are ovens, and it was like, okay, so I had a pretty intense day today. Okay, there was a lot of shit going on in my life. All of it good stuff. I mean, all of it really, really learning experiences for me. I don't feel there was any negativity. I think that, you either have a positive outcome or you learn a lesson. And today I learned a lesson. And it was great to learn the lesson because I realized that while I was having this heated conversation with someone,
really
heated conversation with someone, I was having an out-of-body experience. And the out-of-body experience was not a negative thing. The out-of-body experience was my conscious self saying, okay, you have like a ton of triggers going off right now. I mean, this dude that you're talking to is really triggering the shit out of you. But I wasn't responding like I was somebody being triggered. I was outside of my body saying, you realize this dude is fucking with you, right? Not in a negative way, but he's just working his plan as his triggers are going off. And it's like two triggered people just having a conversation. It's a shit show happening, except I felt like I was the only conscious one out of the two of us having the conversation.
You were less triggered.
Yes, I was less triggered.
Even though you were still triggered.
I was triggered because he was hitting some really deep wounds for me. He was hitting wounds for me that haven't been hit in a really long time, and it made me feel like, and what was so great about it, JJ, as I'm sitting down having this conversation with you at the dinner table before I was saying that I'm just being a dude conversation with the sitting on my face because it was just, I needed some levity in my life. But I realized that this whole experience was a lesson for me. And as I sat there at dinner and before we had dinner, and I just completely let go. I mean, I just broke down. I mean, in a really relieving kind of way, I sat down at the dinner table and was just crying. I mean, and I wasn't mad that I was crying, and I wasn't feeling weak that I was crying. I was just, oh my God, I just needed this release, and it was so good. It was just one of those things that I don't do regularly. I don't do normally. When I was with my previous relationship before you, and we'd been seeing each other for several years before we got married. I'm sorry. I don't know why that's funny. I just think it was funny. I remember going to the movies with her one time, and I think we saw The Butler. And at the end of the movie, she was sitting in the car, and she had driven separately from me to the movie because we were coming at the movie theater from separate directions. So we decided that the best way to get to the movie was just to meet there in each of our cars. She just sat in her car crying. And I swore that it was something that I did. And she's like, no. You didn't do anything. It's just me needing to kind of have an emotional release. And I never really knew what that emotional release was because I had never been through that in my life. And then, a whole bunch of shit happened in my life between my marriage with her. And yeah, I had a couple of emotional releases in the meantime. But tonight was one of those times where I'm like, shit, I have this feeling, I'm just going to let it out. And it felt really good to be able to let it out and just not feel judged by you as you're sitting across the table watching me like crying my eyes out. I just thought it was really interesting that it's like, oh, I'm just expressing myself right now. But then I felt the need to just man up again and just kind of stuff.
Talk about sex.
Talk about sex,
Right.
exactly.
So what I think is interesting about this, first I want to give you some kudos, because I think that it's awesome that you asked the question. You did what everybody does when they're triggered, and you made it about you. So the lesson today for you, after we discussed the fact that this wasn't about you, but you understood the mechanics of getting triggered and how it's not about you.
Yeah, totally.
And in this situation wasn't about him. For you, right? Because if someone's yelling at you, obviously they're triggered. If you're yelling back, you're triggered too. And I loved your out of body experience because it meant that part of you was conscious enough to be an observer and watch the situation. And
I kept saying that those observers, one of them being the conscious me and the other one saying, fuck you, conscious you, just get the fuck out of my face because I want to have a knockdown with this dude. Part of it was me just, I wish I could have remained the conscious me throughout this. And even when I was having that emotional response to the things that he was saying to me, I realized I was having an emotional response to it. It's like the next step is having that person on your shoulder saying, you know that you're triggered right now. You don't need to go here. You have some wounds that you need to deal with. You don't need to hash them out right here because he's not hearing you right now because he's triggered.
But you did an excellent job after the fact of asking yourself, what is it about me?
Oh, my debriefing was amazing. You should have seen the debriefing I had with myself, but I was just so heated that, and I didn't lose it. I tried to have as calm a conversation as I could, but realizing that I was being triggered.
Well, I just want to say it's very refreshing that you have come a long way and wanted to acknowledge your participation in your own emotion about all of this. And then we had the conversation about where it comes from, and you linked it to something in your past, and you let it out. And, the just being a dude is funny because, first of all, you weren't just being a dude. You were being a very conscious man. And I'm going to say man because just being a dude in, let's say, older cultures would have meant, fuck it, I'm not going to deal with it. Give me a beer, or let's turn on the television, or let's go have sex.
I have.
Well,
wine.
yeah, you have some wine, and we open up another bottle, but you haven't guzzled it, and you're not completely numbing out, and you're asking the right questions, and you're having a full on, what I'm going to consider a process. You're processing what just happened. You're understanding it. The fact that you had an emotional release was beautiful because you allowed yourself to tap into what it was connected to, which gave what it's connected to a little less power in you and over you, I hope, little by little. I think that maybe there's still a need for a bigger breakdown for you in the future, and a longer one, and a one that really allows you to verbalize the things that you would have said in your childhood had you been aware that you had these feelings and thoughts. But you did a great job. And so it's funny when you're like, I'm just being a dude, because most dudes don't do that, and most people don't do that. And so I just want to say I'm so proud of you, and that was awesome and inspiring. And I feel a lot of relief for me, quite honestly, because I'm like, oh, okay, a partner who actually wants to take responsibility and do the work and acknowledge it, and you get it. I didn't start coaching you. The only thing I coached you on was the fact that to tell you that this situation was not about you.
No, I got that way ahead of time. I kept thinking as I was having this heated conversation. And by the way, it wasn't a big deal about the conversation. It was a business discussion that with a partner, and the partner was being he was being a little bit more I-centered rather than we-centered. And part of it was just just something stupid that caused the entire thing to happen, which triggered a whole bunch of shit for him. And so his triggers and his yelling and his emotional state triggered a lot of shit in me. And so the conversation wasn't the big deal. What was a better deal, what was a bigger deal, was how I understood the process and what was going on. And the reason that I say this, the reason that I talk about this and even bring this up, is because I think about all of the relationships that are happening in our community, the people that are involved in relationships, and when there's disagreements that happen, it's so incredible to know at this point where I am that the arguments are not about the person that's having the disagreement. It's about, or it's not about, you're not yelling at your spouse. You're yelling because you're dissatisfied with something that had happened in your past that is creating the wound that is causing the problem to begin with. And if you could just short circuit that, or you could just realize that ahead of time, you would find you would be in a much better position to begin with before you even start the issue.
It was a conversation that I'd had in a coaching session with a client. Won't mention you, but hello, you know who you are. Tonight, when there was a misinterpretation from her daughters about her new business adventures. And it was the same thing where the conversation was one that got interpreted from her wounds and was completely misinterpreted in terms of missing sort of the care and the love and the concern and the worry and the hope underneath what the words were. And so when we kind of went over what else could this mean, what's another way to interpret this, it was a complete 180 from what had happened originally. So this to say, when you get into a conversation or an argument with someone, first of all, it's never about what you're actually talking about, ever. Okay, you may think it is. It's just a trigger, but it's using, again, to repeat over and over again. I've mentioned the show so many times. Episode 118, 3 Steps to Effective Communication, the needs and feelings list, and the whole nonviolent communication episode, which I can't stress enough, because even when you think you understand it, I had asked tonight if you are getting to a place where if you've done this, if you've heard the show, if you've got the list, this 3-step process is your feelings, your needs that aren't being met, and the strategies. So when you get to the needs, what happens a lot of time is people think, well, I just need that person to be different. I need to feel better. And in order to do that, you need to behave differently, or the circumstances need to change, or you have to acknowledge me. And it's usually directed outward at somebody else. And when you get to that, you have to know that you haven't hit it yet, because it's not about the other person. Everyone has their own stuff going on. It has to be something that you can strategize and actually give to yourself. And most of the time, it's about what we don't give to ourselves. So in this situation tonight, I just thought it was really very hopeful. I'll talk about it from a completely selfish perspective. One of my biggest fears in relationship has been for many years, and even many years, because of the last few men in my life, has been about being with someone who's victimized and being blamed, because it's very easy for most people when you're unconscious to say, well, it's the other person. It's you. You're controlling. You're demanding. You're intense. And you get yourself to a place where you're actually thinking, I'm so logical, I must be correct. And you're missing the whole opportunity to understand that you're not getting any better because you think it's that other person, and it's not the other person, it's you. So there's a bit of relief for me tonight. I'm like, oh my God, he did that whole process on his own. I didn't therapy you. I coached you a little bit on the acknowledgement that it wasn't about you, and that the wounds that you both have are exactly the same.
What's so great about it is when you take the power back, and you put the responsibility on yourself, you gain so much more of you gain the power. I mean, when you're not focused on what that other person is saying, and you're focused when you don't have blame for what the other person is saying, and you just feel like, okay, this is me. This is a wound that this person is actually triggering, this is not doesn't have anything to do with the other person. Nothing at all. And I love that. I love that. I love that every circumstance, every situation involves, it's all about you for you. It's all about him for him. And the conversation got so wrapped up in the power struggle and everything that it was amazing to me where that entire conversation was going. And as soon as I said, this actually isn't about me. And that little voice above me said, he's dealing with his own pain here. He's dealing with his own wounds. And this is not about you. As soon as I said that, it gave me a little bit of relief, and it gave me the opportunity to take the power back for myself.
It also makes you more compassionate to both the other person and yourself.
Yeah, I had a little challenge at the time being compassionate
because... Well, in the argument, you had a challenge.
But now I see it.
Right.
And now I see it. And when we were sitting down and debriefing about the conversation at dinner, I realized, oh my gosh, this isn't about me at all. I mean, I knew that at the time, but I really knew it as I was a half hour later having the conversation with you.
Well, I think it's interesting is that I think it's the exact same wound. And that's even more interesting is the growth opportunity here when two people have the same wound and you're then triggering each other, and how do you get over that? But we will progress because JJ's going to therapy the shit out of everybody. Otherwise, we're not going to continue along this path, because if we can't talk about what happened in a conscious way, then because I'm not interested in repeating old patterns and behaviors. However, no one else needs to grow for me. Totally cool. Or you necessarily. But I thought, when you said just being a dude, what happened tonight was the farthest thing from just being a dude. So I want to go into that for a second, because I'm sure if you clicked on this link on this show today, or if you're a guy and you're expecting, more guy things and you're hearing all this woo-woo emotional shit, here's what I want to say about that, because I have a lot of clients that are just being dudes all the time.
Okay.
And what happens when you are just a dude, which for some people think that means I'm not being emotional, I'm not talking about my feelings, I'm not focused on it, and I'm running away from my pain or numbing it in some way. Client after client, especially all my clients in their 60s, my wonderful male clients, who continue to come up against and hit against health challenges.
Oh my gosh.
Because they're trying to outrun their pain, or they're trying to drink or eat or deny or just sleep away.
Heart issues,
Pneumonia.
weight issues,
Pneumonia.
lung issues, brain issues, thyroid issues, liver issues. I mean, all of the issues, ache issues, back problems, it's knee problems.
Totally joints. I'm thinking of another one who pain all over his body, and he keeps going to doctor after doctor thinking that it's actually structural, and it's really not structural at all. It's actually a lot of emotion that gets stored in his body that's trying to find an outlet and causing all these different joint pains and chronic discomfort. But I think we're moving into an era, I hope so anyway. I've been reading a new book called The New Rules of Marriage, and Terry Real, which I've had for a while, and I just reached out to him tonight to see if he'd be on the show. But Terry has a new way of looking at relationships, which is that we are all growing as individuals. We want a different kind of relationship than our parents and our grandparents did. So in order to get and achieve that deep level of intimacy and connection and spiritual connection, you have to use different tools. You can't come at it from the old school way everybody else did 10, 20, 30 years ago and expect to get what you want. Again, it's what I said, I don't know, maybe last week or the week before to somebody about what's always amazing to me is that people want what they're not willing to work for, or they've never done it before, yet they're using the same tools that they've used over and over again, and they're not willing to learn anything new. Yet where you're going is new. You've never been there before. Why do you think that the same tools that got you to where you are going to take you to the next place that's new? Anyway, to me, it's like a logical concept, but for some people, they're not aware of some of these habits and patterns that they have. So just being a dude, Doug, wasn't really you tonight. It was just you for half a second when you wanted to focus on sex to, like you said, make the situation a little bit lighter after you got done bawling your eyes out at dinner.
I'm looking forward to making the situation a little bit lighter a little later on.
So if you're listening to this and you're a guy, know that, A, I applaud you for listening to my show. Because as I've been told from women who maybe when they first heard my show and me, and actually a man, thinking of a man, you know who you are too, who said that they were not ready to receive the messages I was giving and thought, no, that's not true. And then something made you think about it. And when you came back, because I asked the people who have said I was extremely confronting my shows and my sort of in-your-face way of wanting you to take responsibility for your life was too confronting. But people come back because I don't know you, so this isn't me yelling at you. And there's a part of you that resonates with the message. So guys, you are emotional beings. Whether you want to classify that as, I hope you don't, as weak or unintelligent or messy. Yes, emotions are messy. Let's just get that out of the way. Emotions are messy. Guess what? Sex is messy. And how many of you men wish women would just get over it and be messy in sex? Well, we want you to be messy in your emotions because that's the reality of life. That's the juice of life. So just be messy in your emotional processing.
Emotions are sexy.
Well, what's really sexy, and I don't necessarily want anyone sitting on anyone's face tonight, but what's really sexy.
There go my chances, everybody. I just want to let you know that right out the window. Thanks, everybody. You guys suck.
But seriously, what really is sexy is that you processed your emotions tonight. You took responsibility for them. You asked how it was about you. You asked what lessons you needed to learn. You cried. You recovered. You felt better. You came across, it was awesome.
Hey, JJ, are those your emotions in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me?
Both. It's going to be a short and sweet show.
Oh, God.
So I'm glad that Doug is willing to be vulnerable and share that with you, because while he is not the quote-unquote manly man that stuffs his emotions, I think he gives a voice to some of you who aren't willing to share yours. And for some of the clients that I coach who have had health issues that I have said over and over again for 10 years, you can't outrun your pain.
Hey, listen, I ride a Harley and I love Cosmos. All right. So it's just that simple. It's that simple. I'm just true to myself, and that's who I am.
You're Metro.
I'm totally Metro. I'll see you at the mall.
So let's see. Anything else about just being a dude?
I was just being a dude. Can we turn this off so we can maybe get back to what we were going to do before we turn this thing on?
There he goes, just being a dude. Okay.
And that was watching New Girl.
Bum. You're like a Schmidt. You're a Schmidt, babe.
Totally a Schmidt.
You're a Schmidt. Hopefully, those of you that haven't watched New Girl, tune in just for a few episodes and you'll see what I'm talking about for the Schmidt. And if you've watched it, you know exactly what we're talking about. So, all right, guys, we acknowledge, we honor women, especially smart, conscious women. We'll honor your emotions. And what's even better, and on both sides, by the way, let me just say this because I don't want to set the tone as if women have their shit figured out. They don't either. The difference is women are willing to be emotional outright. They're willing to blame you and be a victim, and they think that's healthier. In some ways, just getting their emotion out is, and not worrying what other people think about them emotionally is good. But the reason why men half the time, the reason why you get upset and think women are just emotionally irresponsible is because you take it. And then you wonder why they manipulate you, because you don't ever change it. You don't meet them halfway. So there's a lot of lessons on both sides here, men and women, masculine and feminine. So no one's off the hook. Everyone can learn a little bit better. Again, the Dear Haters show, I hope that some of that show was able to convey that there will always be someone who's got a bone to pick with you, and how you respond to it is about your level of wholeness and stability and being healed and having perspective and healing some of the wounds and triggers so you can see things very clearly. And I hope that you got that from that show. So anyway, off we go to watch some New Girl, and we'll meet you back here next week.
And if you are interested in coming to the New Year's retreat JJ, you have some information about that?
Just send me an email, get on the list, and I will send you the questionnaire when it is finished. It'll be in Palm Springs.
You still haven't finished the
No, I
fucking
haven't finished.
questionnaire?
We still have spots
God.
on the whale trip. Oh, that's a good lead in. This whale trip might be smaller than we anticipated. And the smaller that it is, the more time we're going to get with whales and dolphins and with amazing meditation exercise, conversation, and focus on everything that is of interest to the few of us who are there. So
Let me just say this. I'm going to be there, so you guys should fucking be there. So just pick up your computer, unless it's not a laptop and then you want to leave it right where it is. Get to the keyboard and go to jjflizanes.com.
/whale.
/whale. It couldn't be any easier than that. We'll have a whale of a time in Panama.
And we're not going to be doing it again anytime soon. There's too much going on. And while we may do another whale or dolphin trip somewhere else, it won't be in Panama. And I can't guarantee it's going to be in the next 2 or 3 years. So please, if this at all sparks your interest and you want to come with us and you want the personal coaching, conversation, guidance.
Oh my gosh,
and
I can
everything.
even see us taking the recorder and doing a couple of podcast episodes while we're there. So fucking join in the fun. Let's do it. Everybody, come on. Let's go.
It's going to be magical, and I'm so looking forward to it. So hopefully you'll take the plunge, literally, put it on a credit card, and figure it out later, because the whales will teach you about abundance. We will talk about business, and we will help you make it back, because you can't miss this if you at all feel called to it, because we're not doing it again in the near future. Okay? One-time opportunity. Whales, dolphins. If I have a singing whale and a pulsar from a dolphin, you're gonna really regret not experiencing that.
Singing whale orgasm. I can only imagine what that's all
I
about.
just can't wait to be in the water with a singing whale and have that vibration. It's like just tingle my whole body and like hit my bones and my cells. Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. All right, that's Dig's rendition of a whale. We gotta go because this is only gonna get worse. So jjflizanes.com /whale. If you're interested in New Year's, jjflizanes.com or jj@jjflizanes.com.
Love you, everybody.
See you here next week.